Hello, and welcome aboard to an awake FlameFlash.net podcast. I'm FlameFlash, and this is episode 65. The night is young, I'm having caffeine, and I'm ready to start. The Raptor Report starts us off as usual. We're going to do something slightly different this time. Feel free, always, to come to raptor.com/flameflash. Check me out there. But I'm going to hit on what I actually played this time. The kids touched on a couple of things, but they're fairly standard items. So let's get going. Magic Gathering, Duels of the Planeswalkers. Retool another deck. It's kind of tough taking just those M12 cards out and putting M13 cards in, or finding alternatives for the M12 cards. You have to look up on gatherer.wizards.com to see if the M12 cards that you're thinking about retiring are possibly reprints. A lot of them can be. And you definitely run the risk of completely changing your deck, losing the spirit of your deck. My zombie mill deck, for instance, heavily lost some of the mill portion of the deck. And it was long-term mill, so it were things that every turn it made my opponent mill. Poof. M12 to M13 transition. Now I know M13 or M12 isn't fully out of standard yet, but it will be in October. I'm not a uber competitive player as far as tournaments and that kind of thing goes. So if I'm going to stay standard, I might as well get a drop on it now, especially since I have limited amount of time. Marvel Ultimate Alliance shows up in the Raptor Report. The kids put it in. The Sims 3. Went back in, enjoyed it as usual. Sims 3 Supernatural was announced, but now Seasons has been announced already. I guess the announcement of Supernatural was probably a little lackluster. All they're really adding are werewolves and fairies, and and zombies. Yay! Yay, brains! But Seasons really adds that missing piece from Sims 2, and it's nice to see it finally coming. Now all we need is University. That was my favorite expansion of Sims 2. So now that's all we need. Lego Harry Potter, well, the kids put that one in. Sports Champions for the PS3. Hey, it's a new game. Already scored 3 hours in this thing, personally. Quite a few trophies have already been racked up. I think about 7. And I love it. The Wii kind of died in our household after it, died, and we had to send it in for repairs, and it came back with an empty memory. We lost all our saves. I think I've mentioned this before. Well, Sports Champions takes Wii Sports and gives it to you better. Better graphics, better control, because you're using 2 move controllers in your hands most of the time. And I just like it better. Archery, Bocce-ball, or it's BOCCE. Archery, that, a gladiator combat game. Ping pong, table tennis, I think they call it. And then frisbee golf. I actually haven't touched the frisbee golf yet much, nor the table tennis, but the archery, I think I left that one off. The archery is amazing. Watching Red Flare grab the imaginary arrow, because you have to even do that, knock the arrow, pull it back, and let it go. You release the T button. It's moves are so fluid as you do it. Or I'm doing it wrong for the video, but oh well. And it wears your arms out. It actually makes you work. This was something that, when playing with the Wii, I didn't ever feel. So it's more intense. It's more satisfying. It's tempting me to pick up 2 more Move controllers. This late into the generation, though, I'll pick up the Move controllers once they finally go on sale. Because we're probably not going to initially jump into the next generation, and all of the old generation accessories, games, those kinds of things are going to go on sale very nicely. So they're sports champions. The kids love it too. The oldest son seemed a little bit frustrated that he couldn't beat his daddy at the Gladiator game. You can do a single Move controller 2-player support, or you can just pass the 2 back and forth and say the archery, go for a best score kind of thing. But then Red Flare takes the controllers, and I have no idea what she's doing in comparison to me, but whatever it is, it works. Because my character ends up laying on the ground. Yep. Kicked my butt on that mode. I don't know if she maybe had some pent-up frustrations with me that she wanted to let out that day, or what the deal was. Because I was solidly beating one opponent, and then Red Flare steps in and just mops the combat floor with me. Highly impressive. There will have to be a rematch. World of Warcraft. Well, as usual, the Curse of the Dark Moon Fair has kicked in, and I haven't gotten to play as much as I'd like. It is the top game on my week's list that I've actually played, however. So that's a good thing. Dark Moon Fair is running, and this is the perfect time to be starting to shop and plan what you're going to be buying next month, Dark Moon Fair, with your tickets for your panda. Or for your monk, I should say. Because, well, why don't we just transition? Hey, we're going to quickly transition straight into the news. Terraria was at the top of my Raptor report, but I didn't touch it. The kids did. So, you can prepare yourself with the Dark Moon Fair heirloom gear. Now, this late in the expansion of Cataclysm, you might be absolutely swimming in Justice points. Or if you're like me, you haven't been playing that much as far as heroics go, because they just weren't as fun as Wrath. If that's the case, these Dark Moon Fair tickets are going to be an absolutely perfect way to grab those extra heirloom items that you might not have and toss them to your monk. So I will probably be getting the Spell Power leather gear, for sure. I plan to make a Mistweaver. What I don't know is if I'll have enough left over to grab, say, Windwalker weapons. Now, one thing I did is my main is a Druid Guardian Resto. I'm using the word Guardian because when Mists hits, Druids get 4 specs, remember, not 3. So I'm going Guardian, which is the bear, and Resto, the tree. Well, I'm going for the glyph with the tree, and then I'll just walk around in tree form all the time. But with those 2 in, I have a character that doesn't DPS at all. I mean, sure I can DPS, I can flip to cat, but in Mists I won't be able to flip to cat and feel comfortable. It's going to be bear all the way. So going Windwalker Mistweaver means I have a character that will be able to heal and DPS. I don't need another tank. I will probably roll a monk over on the Horde side that is only a Brewmaster, so I can get a feel for tanking Brewmaster. But the Dark Moon Fair gear that I'm going to be picking up is first and foremost the spell power. Yeah, you can tell I'm an old player because I'm saying spell power instead of intellect. The spell power heirloom gear, staff, and then maybe the agility sword and mace that they have. You know, come to think of it, I have a spell power mace already in my bank because the character that was using it outleveled it. Awesome. I also have a scribe to make offhand books. So that actually solves that problem. I won't need a Mistweaver staff, spell power staff. And once the character that is actually using my spell power staff hits the point that she can't anymore, I can pass the staff on to my Mistweaver. So it's just the spell power gear, and then the weapons probably. The weapons is all I went with for my warrior, because I wanted to really feel the warrior and work through at a slightly slower pace. The problem with my monk is I want to get faster. I want to go faster up the ladder. I want to get to 90. I'd like for my monk to be my secondary healer / DPS character. Now, I'm not going to be linking to this in the show notes because I didn't write about it on Monk of Mists, but the Valor point cap is being dropped. And in its place, they are going to encourage you by getting a buff when you get the maximum Valor points in a week on one character to speed up Valor point accruement on the next character. Just you get a buff on that server. So I'm already benefited by having all my characters sitting on Zangarmarsh that are Alliance and all my Horde characters sitting over on Argent Dawn. This is awesome. So I hit that weekly cap, which may or may not be the 3,000 cap, and then I'm flipped to my Warlock or my Monk. And with shared achievements, I don't feel as bad being on my Monk when I could have potentially been tanking on my Druid, or healing on my Druid, or, hey, wait guys, my Monk is as equally geared as my Druid, thanks to the Valor point sharing. So, you need a DPS for this fight? Let me just flip over. Boom! Now I'm a melee DPS. Oh, you need a ranged DPS? Hang on a second. Let me grab my Warlock. It's going to make it much easier to maintain multiple characters at level cap with gear. Perfect. It does mean that I'll probably still only have one character that goes around and does all the dailies. But who knows? Maybe I will unlock the farming on more than one character. We'll just have to wait and see. Aside from that, in World of Warcraft news, and I haven't heard anything more about it, Long Strange Trip is losing the 310% speed bonus. I'm pretty ticked off about this, actually, because what a Long Strange Trip it's been, you can read about it on Monk of Mists as well, is a long, strange trip. It is aptly named. And as the game gets even older, it's going to become even harder to get. For instance, I'd like to see a cloth class, like a priest, go running through Utgard Keep? Or Utgard Pinnacle, I can't remember which, with your orphan all the way to the end on heroic. I still don't see it happening very easily. Maybe at 90 it'll be possible, but I watch as non tanky tunes still have difficulty soloing things in Wrath. Personally, I see this. I'm not running with these epic folks on YouTube who figure out ways to melt faces in cloth and run AQ40. I don't run with these people. I can't generalize to say the average WoW player, but the pool of people that I know, if they're going to go in, are going to be going in as a tanking class. So what a long strange trip is going to get harder as time progresses. Not only are more people not going to be interested in doing it, especially now that there's a 310%, no longer the 310% speed boost, but those characters that got the 310 boost before Mists aren't going to get it afterwards. Say Brewfest was the only thing they were left. They're now not going to get that 310% speed bonus. It's just not balanced to be removing it arbitrarily without some rather long, drawn-out, this is the holiday that we're going to reset the clock. Now, I have no idea what the first holiday was for Wrath. I'm thinking it was Hallow's End. And if that's the case, that should be the cutoff point for the 310% loss. There. Otherwise, beforehand, if you got the 310% speed, if you already have the Violet Proto-Drake, any character you have that has the 280 speed that you mount up on the Violet Proto-Drake on suddenly earns the 310. That's the way it has been in the beta all the way up to this point. So why we're removing it is still a big mystery to me. I ranted about it on Monk of Mists 2, angrily, or agree with me there. Or in the podcast comments, but we'll get off that one. I mentioned already, Sims 3 is getting the Seasons expansion. Now I'm going to subtly note again that I want Steam to actually carry the next expansions. I'm still waiting for the Katy Perry stuff. I'm still waiting for the Diesel stuff. Where are they? Come on, EA. Submit these to Steam. I'm not going Origin. I'll be quiet now. Alright. Speaking of Steam, Awesome Knots is now on PC. If you don't have a PS3, if you didn't have PlayStation Plus, if you're not interested in playing it on the console, you can pick it up on the PC. It's a great game. The kids still play it. I'd still play it if I had the time. It looks like a blast. Especially with the 2 new characters that I haven't even had a chance to play with yet. It's a good game. It's cheap. It's worth it. I never knew, by the way, the Commodore 64 is as old as I am. It's no wonder I had such a close affinity to the darn thing. It was the computer of my age. Watched a YouTube recording, I think it's on the link that I will be posting in the show notes, of a fellow who appears to be a little bit older than me, taking a Commodore 64 into a school and getting children of today's opinions of it. I know what my kids' opinion of it would be. The graphics are crap. You have to wait too long to load everything. And why in the world do I have to type load space quote Super space Mario space Brothers or BROS quote enter and then run. But there were some great games on that thing. Ah, nostalgia. I wonder if it still works. It's probably somewhere in my mom's house. Oh well. Commodore 64 turned 30. Wow. Finally. Oh, not finally, because I don't want to end on this one. EA has turned, well, I guess it is a finally. It turned around and is suing Zynga for copyright infringement. You know how we were mentioning The Sims 3 earlier? Well, Zynga created the Ville. EA had already put out Sim Social. Now, I have a thing against Sim Social because basically your representation of Sim can potentially cheat on your spouse. One of your other friends who plays the game shows up at your house, gets a relationship score with your Sim, and suddenly they could be doing things that you don't really want them to do, but you're not there to control your Sim to make them stop because it all gets automated. At least that's been my impression of it. Maybe I'm totally off my rocker about that game, but I only tried it for maybe an hour. Penny Arcade had an excellent comic regarding it too, so I posted a link to there as well. But this is a case of principle. Here's a quote from the article. Maxis isn't the first studio to claim Zynga copied its creative product. However, we are the studio that has the financial and corporate resources to stand up and do something about it. I'm going to have to golf clap because the kids are sleeping in the background, but awesome. Wait a minute here. EA is not playing the villain in this? That's a head scratcher. For those watching on YouTube, I'm scratching the back of my head because otherwise it would disturb my headset. It's kind of funny, actually. EA playing the good guy. They're standing up for the little people that Zynga's been stealing from all this time. There's an iOS Tiny Tower or something that Zynga clearly ripped off, but that developer didn't have the clout or the power to go up against Zynga. EA does. EA will Hulk smash them. And I feel good about that. Finally, Steam is going to be changing their game. Or adding non-games, as it were. Awesome. I look forward to seeing what they choose to add. It's productivity, creativity, items. It's just really interesting if suddenly you could buy and download Microsoft Word from Steam. Weird thought. So we'll wait and see. It's coming. There aren't many details out yet, but I like the sound of it. Are you scared of it? What's your thoughts? Some fun stuff here. And I look forward to hearing and seeing comments. I'm Flame Flash of flameflash.net. Podcast at flameflash.net for commentary. If you want to email it in or leave, comments on the various articles that are going to crop up. I'm Flameflash over on raptor.com. There you can find my other gaming profiles linked. You can compare my achievement scores and trophy counts, etc. with yours. And have a good week. Go forth and enjoy the Dark Moon Fair. It's Flame Flash signing off.